Hey everyone, today I'm going to teach you how to model and texture an entire sports stadium. The main focus of this tutorial is going to be on modeling the structure of a general stadium for any sort of scene. The stadium is not going to be accurate to any specific sport, but rather it's going to be designed for all sports in general. However, I will be providing you with this football field texture, which isn't really accurate to an actual American football field, it's just there to cover the ground. You can also change the shape in the middle by messing around with the curve. This will be the final result of the tutorial, and I will even show you how to cut the scene polycount in half and still maintain the same detail and shape of the stadium. As always, if you don't want to go through this entire video, you can download this blend file on my Patreon. So consider becoming a member on my Patreon and get access to my past and future tutorial project files. I'm also trying to hit 10,000 subscribers on this channel. So if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button to help me get to 10,000 subscribers. And give this video a like right now for more tutorials like this. Alright, without further ado, let's get started with the tutorial. Alright, hit A and then X to delete everything. Shift A, Mesh, Cube. We'll make it 17 meters long. This is going to be our first row, so rename it to row. Let's go to -Y. Let's go into edit mode. Hit GZ1 on your keyboard, enter. This will bring it above the origin point. Wireframe mode. Select the top half, hit G and then Z on your keyboard to scale it down towards the middle point. Select this portion, G and then X to scale it on the X-axis. Control R to add in 2 loop cuts. Click and then hit escape. Hit S and then Z on your keyboard to scale it on the Z-axis. I'm going to place it right here. Go back to solid mode. Use the face select tool. Select this face only. Go back to -Y. Hit E to extrude like this. Let's go into wireframe. Use the vertex select mode. Select these 2 bottom vertices. So it'll end up selecting both of these here. Hit E to extrude and then X on the X-axis. Extrude it all the way over here. Then hit A and then G and X to move the entire object towards the middle. This centers it out on the origin point. Now use the face select tool. Select these 2 bottom faces. Go back to -Y. Hit E to extrude on the Z-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Use the edge select tool. Hold Alt on your keyboard and select this edge right here, and then hit F to fill in that gap, adding in another face. Go back to -Y. Let's do Control R to add in a loop cut. Then select this face, hit E to extrude up. Go into wireframe, use the vertex select these 2 vertices, hit E and then Z to extrude on the Z-axis. 1, 2, 3. Go back into solid mode, use the face select tool and select this face. Hit P, separate selection. Go back to object mode. This is going to be our mini fence / barrier. So rename it to mini fence. Go into edit mode, Control R, add in 50 loop cuts. Click, escape. You can add in 50 loop cuts using this menu right here. Go back into object mode, add a wireframe modifier. Hit Control A to apply scale, and now you got a mini fence here. We'll make the thickness 0.01. Checkmark boundaries. I'm going to move it towards the middle right here. Now go to top view, select your main row right here, hit Control A, apply scale, Then go into edit mode, Control R to add in a loop cut, and then add it all the way down here. Click, go into wireframe, use the face select tool. We'll select these faces right here, like this. Hit X, delete faces. Now go back to solid mode, use the edge select tool, and we'll use the edge select tool to select these three edges by holding shift. And then we can hit F to fill in these gaps. So we'll do the same with these gaps here. So I'll just hold shift. Well, first deselect, and then hold shift, select these edges. Hit F to add in a face. F. Now select these two edges only. Hold shift, select this. Hit E and then Z to extrude up. Go to wireframe. Use the vertex select, hit G and Z, and we'll scale it down. 1, 2, 3. Now go back to solid mode. Use the face select tool, select these two faces. Hit P, separate selection. Go back to object mode. Select this new object here. We're going to make this another barrier to separate the rows. Go into edit mode. Control R, add in 10 loop cuts for each face. Use the face select tool. Select 6 faces here. Delete faces. Now go back to object mode. Add a wireframe modifier. Make the thickness 0.01. Checkmark boundaries. Now we need to make an exit point here for our stairs. So select this mini fence here. Go to the X view. Let's go into wireframe. Tab to go into edit mode. We'll use the edge select tool and I'll select this single edge here. Hit G and then Y and I'll move it over. Then I'll select these faces here and hit X to delete faces. Then I'll select my main row, go into edit mode, and I'll delete these faces here. Now to fill in this gap, I'll use the edge select tool. Like we did previously, I'll select this edge, and this edge, hit F to fill in the face. Then I'll select this, and then F to fill in that face. Now, before we model the stairs, I'm going to model the stadium seats first. So let's go to the top view. Let's do Shift A, Mesh, Cube. Hit S to scale it down. Hit G and Y and we'll move it all the way towards the end. Hit S and then Z to scale on the Z axis. And I'll place it above this thing right here. Select this, rename it to Seats. Go into edit mode, Control R, add in 2 loop cuts. Click and then escape to snap it back in place, and then hit S and Y on your keyboard to scale it on the Y axis. Control R, 1 more loop cut. Then use the face select tool and select these 2 faces and hit E to extrude, making the armrest. Select these back 3 faces, and again, hit E to extrude up. There you go, a basic stadium seat done. Hit Control A, apply scale. Now I gotta duplicate these seats across this entire row. To do that, we're gonna use the array modifier. Make the X factor 0, and the Y is gonna be 1.8. We'll add in 20 seats per row. Now just apply the array modifier. So let's start texturing our objects. To texture our objects, I'm going to use an add-on called Blender Kit. You can download it for free. I'll leave a link in the description. Make sure you download and install it into Blender. I already installed it into Blender, so I'll just go into Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and I'll search for Blender Kit. All I have to do is just make sure to check mark it so it's enabled, and then I can do Save Preferences. A search bar should pop up right here. What's great about Blender Kit is that you get access to a ton of free assets and materials that you can quickly drag and drop into your scene. So I'll choose the materials right here, and I'm going to texture the base object right here first. Most stadiums, well, pretty much all of them are made out of concrete, so I'm going to search for a concrete material. So I'm going to use a texture-based material, And for the texture resolution, I'm going to set it to 2K, which is 2048 by 2048. I'll use this concrete texture right here. I'll just click and drag it onto my row like this. It turns the object black in the viewport. To change the color, you can go to the material properties right here, scroll all the way down to viewport display, and change the color to gray, and turn the metallic back to 0. To see what this is looking like, we need to go into rendered mode. I'll be using the Cycles render engine. I'm going to switch the device to GPU, highly recommended if you have a GPU for faster rendering. I'll turn on denoising, and then for some world lighting, I'm going to add in a sky texture. The strength is going to be 0.2, and the sun elevation is going to be 5. Now let's go into rendered mode to see what our object is looking like. And look at that, that concrete texture is looking very nice. But we need to UV unwrap this model. So to UV unwrap it, I'm going to go into edit mode, and I'm going to make sure I select everything by hitting A, and then I'm going to open up a new window by dragging on the top right corner like this. I'll switch this to the UV editor to see what's going on, and you can see the UVs are way too big here. So to fix that, I'm going to go and hit U and then Smart UV Project. Then just hit Unwrap. Now it's nicely tidied up like this. But the texture size has increased dramatically. To fix this, we can just go into the shader editor. We can go to the mapping coordinate and change the scale to 20. Okay, looking good. Now I'll just shade the fence as well. We'll go to the material properties, hit new, I'll make it metallic, and the roughness is going to be 0.1. Very simple. Rename the material to fence. Go into edit mode. Oh, it looks like I didn't apply the wireframe modifier, so let's just do that real quick. Let's go into the modifiers and apply the wireframe modifier on my fence. And then I'll go into edit mode, hit A to select everything. I'll go to the UV editor to see what's going on, and I'll hit U, Smart UV Project. There we go. I'll do the same thing with this. I'll just apply the wireframe modifier. Then I will go to the material properties, add that same fence material I made, tab into edit mode, A, U, Smart UV Project, unwrap. Now let's move on to texturing our seats. So for the seats, I researched that the stadium seats usually are made out of plastic. Some are made out of steel or aluminum, but most of them are made out of plastic. So I'll search for a plastic material on BlenderKit. I'm going to change this to procedural. And I like this red plastic material here. So I'm going to go ahead and drag that onto our seats. Let's select our seat model, hit tab to go into edit mode, hit U, Smart UV Project. The texture looks way too big, so let's go back into shader editor, and we can fix that again by going to the mapping coordinates. We'll change the scale to 100. There we go. Okay, I can collapse this window for now. Let's go back into solid mode. Now I'm going to combine all the objects into one single joined object. So let's select our two fences, select your seats, and then lastly, select your main row. Hit Ctrl J on your keyboard, and now you have one single joined object. Now let's just quickly save our blend file. Let's go to Save As. We could call this Stadium with red seats. Save As. Now I want to make sure the scaling of this row is correct. To do that, I'm going to use a reference human model. So you don't have to do this step, but I just need to quickly import in a human model for scaling reference. So I'll just go to Imports, JLB, and I'll import in one of my human models, which is myself. And when I import the human model, we can see that the seats are way too small. The entire row in general is way too small. So let's just scale it up. I'm going to select my row, hit S, and then hold Control. I'll scale it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That looks much better and more realistic in terms of real world scale. Now we can move on to modeling the stairs. Let's go to the Y view for a second. I'm just going to move over the entire row a bit like this, so it's nicely aligned. Here's the location if you want to see the exact location. Then we can start modeling the stairs. Click on your row, go into edit mode, use the edge select tool, select this edge, hit Shift D to duplicate it, and then escape to put it back in place, then P, separate selection. Go back into object mode, and you'll have a new object here, which is called row 001. We can rename this to stairs. It's not looking like stairs yet, but it will. Let's go into edit mode. Let's use the vertex select mode. Hit A to make sure it's selected. Let's go to the Y view, and let's start making our stairs. So to do that, I'm going to hit E and then X on my keyboard to extrude on the X axis. Hold Control and we can snap it to the left. So 1, 2, 3, and then E and then Z on your keyboard. 1, 2, and then E and then X on your keyboard to extrude it. 1, 2, 3, and then E and then Z. 1, 2. EX, 1, 2, 3, and then EZ, 1, 2. EX, 1, 2, we'll just do 2 here, and then EZ, 1, 2. And then finally, EX, and we'll extrude it backwards on the x-axis. When you scroll, or when you move around your viewport, you should have some stairs that look like this. Go ahead and just hold Alt on your keyboard and deselect first, and then hold Alt on your keyboard, click on this vertex here. Oh, didn't work. Let's hold Alt. There we go. Click on this vertex. There we go. And then hit F to add in that face. Hold Alt on this side, click on this vertex, and then hit F to add in that face. Control A, apply scale. Now let's go into render mode, and you can notice that there is no concrete texture applied, and that's because we need to unwrap it. So go into edit mode, A to select everything, and then U, Smart UV Project. But I want this concrete texture to look different from this a little bit. So to do that, I'm going to just click on this number 3 here to separate it from this row here, the material at least. So if you click this, it'll separate the material. Now it's separated, and now we can go back to the shader editor, and I'm going to change the scale to 8. I'm also going to change up the displacement. I think it's too strong. I'm going to make the mid-level 0.8, and the scale is going to be 0.02. I'll do the same with this concrete material as well. 0.8, 0.02. Okay, now click on your stairs, and then shift-click your main row, and hit Ctrl-J to join them together. Now they're one single object. For the concrete material here, you can just rename this to stairs. So we know the difference between the base concrete material and the stairs concrete material. Let's collapse this window. Let's go back to solid mode. Now we're going to move on to duplicating multiple rows going down. Kind of like how you see in these stadiums right here, where the rows are, going down a little bit or even going up. So to do that, we're going to use an array modifier. But before the array modifier, I'm going to first duplicate this entire object. So let's go to the Y view. Let's do Shift D to duplicate it, and then escape to put it back in place. And then I'll hit G and then X on my keyboard, and I'll move it on the X axis. I'll move it down, see what that's looking like. And we don't want there to be a gap between each stair. So let's just bring it up. Almost there. There we go. Let's go to the top view, and let's just fill in this gap by hitting G and X, and we'll move it back. Nice. Now I want this row to be different from this row, so I'll just go ahead and click this, go into edit mode. I'm going to use the face select tool, select this face right here, and I'm going to go to the Y view, go into wireframe. I'm just going to hit G and then Z to scale on the Z axis, and I'll bring it down. I also want there to be a little more space for the steps here, because if you bring in a human model down these steps, you can see there is hardly any space to get into the row. Like there's barely any space. I need more space to get into the row here. So I'm going to select this second row here. I'm going to go to the Y view. I'm going to go into wireframe, go into edit mode. I will select all the faces right here. Then I'll hit G and X, and I'll move it on the X axis. A little bit more. I think that's enough space. Yep, that's good enough. I also need there to be a little bit of a gap here for these bars. So let's go into edit mode. Let's select this face right here, or these three faces. Let's go to top view. Let's do G, Y, just move it over, making a little bit of a gap here. Let's hover over, we'll deselect this, and then hover over your bars here or fence. Hit L on your keyboard to select it, and I'll just move it over slightly. I'll do the same with this. And then hover over your fence, hit L. Well, first we got to deselect this, and then hover over this and hit L, GY. Kind of want to do the same with this side, so let's select this fence here, hover over it, hold L or hit L, and then let's do GY. I'll move it over. Okay, I'm just gonna make my model sit down. Okay, he seems to fit pretty well on the seats. Let's go into render mode, see what it's looking like. And so far, we are looking good. Okay, now we can duplicate this using the array modifier. So let's go to the modifiers. Let's go to array. Let's adjust it. So we'll do minus 0.5. And then we'll do 0.5 on the X. It's not going to be exact. Okay, that's incorrect. Let's do 0.6. To see this better, I'm just going to turn on cavity. There we go. And this is going to be more up. So minus 0.4. No, let's do minus 0.395. Okay, looking good. Now, before we add in more counts, let's first make this 1 for a second, and we need to add in some loop cuts. So let's select this row, the second row first, go into edit mode. Let's deselect, and let's do Control R to add in a loop cut right here. Let's add in 12 loop cuts. So 12 like this, click, and then hit escape to snap them back in place. We got to do the same on this. So Control R, 4, we can add 4 here, escape, and then Control R, 4 here. Do the same with the first row. These loop cuts are going to come in handy once we try to shape these rows using a curve modifier. You'll see later on. But for now, this is good. Let's go tab back out into object mode. Let's go to our count here and add in 9, making a total of 10 rows, including the first one, completing our first section. We can go ahead and just click on File, and then we can save this as an increment in case we need to go back to our previous version. So this will make different saved files we can go back to. And then we can go ahead and apply the array modifier. Let's go into edit mode. Let's hover over these stairs right here. First deselect, then hover over these stairs right here. Hit L on your keyboard and then X delete faces. Let's go to the X view. Actually, let's go to the bottom minus Z view. Let's select these bottom faces here. Use the face select tool and select these bottom faces here. Also select these ones here by holding Shift. Just these ones. So these 3 faces are selected across the entire row. Now we can go back to the X view and we'll hit G and then Z and we'll scale it just down a little bit, just a little bit. That's good. Now let's go ahead and just select this entire row here. So deselect, and then let's select this row, including the top as well. Make sure you don't end up selecting these faces here. So I ended up selecting these faces. Let's just deselect them by hitting C and middle mouse button to deselect all these faces. Okay. Now with these faces selected, we'll go to the materials. we'll add in a new material, and this row is going to be dedicated to showing off any sort of advertisement banners or whatever you want to show off here. So hit new, we'll call it add banner 1. We'll go into rendered mode to see what's going on, and we'll just hit assign. Then let's go to the base color, go to image texture, and you can go ahead and add in whatever image texture you like. I'm going to add in the Netflix logo. You can also add in the Blender logo, or whatever logo you want, any company logo, but I want to use the Netflix logo, so I'll hit open image. I'll hit U, project from view. Let's go into material preview to see it better. Let's open up a new window by dragging like this. Let's go to the UV editor, see what's going on. We can hit A and then S to scale. There we go. Let's collapse this window. Now let's go into solid mode and make sure our normals are correct. So let's go into edit mode and we can go and turn on face orientation. And we need all of this side to be blue. And notice how the stairs are red. I forgot to flip the normals for these, so let's just go ahead and quickly do that. I think we can quickly select all the stairs by going into the materials. Make sure you deselect everything by clicking over here. Let's go to stairs, click select, and then hit Alt-N on your keyboard and flip the normals. Now they're blue, which is what we want. We also need to correct the first row as well, so click on the first row. Edit mode, hover over your stairs, hit L, Alt-N, flip normals. Okay, now they're facing the right direction. I'm also going to go ahead and delete unnecessary geometry that we're not going to be able to see. So these faces right here, we're not going to be able to see them, so I'm just going to hit X, delete faces. Also delete this side as well. And let's select this, and we might as well do all of these as well on this side. So I'm going to select like this. Delete faces. Let's do the other side. X, delete faces. Okay, cool. Now we can just click on this second row and click on the first row and hit Control J to join them together. And now that officially completes our first section. So I think we can rename this to section 1. Go into render mode. Let's make sure everything looks correct, and it does. Now we need to create multiple sections. So first, I'm going to click on this. I'm going to go into edit mode. I'm going to select these faces right here individually, manually. Let's go to the Y view. Let's hit G and then Z on our keyboard, and we'll scale up. Now with the section 1 object selected, let's go to the modifiers. Let's add another array modifier. We'll do -1. That's pretty much it. And now you have 2 sections. We'll add in 2 more. See what that looks like. We can change the banners up later if you want, but for now, I'm going to keep them like this. Let's go ahead and we'll save our project. Make sure you save it as an incremental, because then you can go back to previous versions in case you want to change anything. Once you're happy with the 4 sections, apply your array modifier. We're going to add 2 more for a total of 6 sections. So let's add another array. This one is going to be at the top. So let's do, well, first we got to move it back. So -1 and then 1. I want this to be a little bit forward. So I'm going to move it forward a bit. Like that. We'll just hit apply. And we're going to delete these top 2 here. So let's go into the Y view. Let's go to wireframe. Let's go into edit mode. Let's use the face select tool. And we're going to delete these 2 sections here. Hold shift. Make sure I get everything. And I want to make sure I don't delete anything I don't want to delete. Okay. Hit X to delete faces. And there you go. We got 6 sections of seats completed. Now, guess what I'm about to do next? That's right. We're going to add another array modifier. This time, it's going to be 0 on the X factor, and we'll do 1 on the Y. And now we can add in as many as we like. So currently when I array these rows, they go straight, but I need them to follow the shape of a stadium. Now, typical stadiums are usually this oval shape. So to get this oval shape, we'll be using a curve. So let's first rename this to stadium. So let's go ahead and hide this for now. I'm gonna just delete this armature. I don't really need it right now. Let's do Shift A, add in a curve circle. Go to top view, zoom in on it, go into edit mode, hit S and then Y on your keyboard, hold Control and do this exactly. So we'll scale it on the Y axis. 1, 2, 3. Click. That's it. Go into object mode and now zoom out and we'll hit N and we'll adjust the scaling. So we'll make the scale on the X axis 113.297. On the Y axis, it's going to be 97.376. Increase the resolution of the curve to 64 on both. Hit F2, rename it to Stadium Curve. Bring back your stadium, click on the stadium, go to Modifiers, add a curve modifier. The curve object is going to be the stadium curve. It's a bit messy here, so go on the deform axis, change it to -Y, and then rotate it on the Y and Z 180 degrees. And now all you have to do is just keep increasing the count till it fills up the entire shape. But be careful, if you have a slow, lower end system, you might not be able to handle this, but I believe most systems or most modern systems today should be able to handle this setup here. The total amount you need is 26 to fill it up. And if we look at our scene statistics, we can see there are 2.8 million faces, which I think is pretty good considering that we have over 30,000 seats in this stadium. Okay, so I've reached the 30-minute mark on this tutorial, so let me just quickly add in a ground and a building to cover this entire stadium. Let's go to top view. Let's click our stadium curve. Let's do Shift T, duplicate it, and then escape to put it back in place. Change the resolution to 12. We'll go into wireframe, hit S to scale it down. S and then X to scale on the X axis. Hit F2, rename it to ground. Hide our stadium. Let's go to the -Y view, bring it closer to the ground. Bring back your stadium. Let's go back to top view. Let's hit F3, convert it back to a mesh. Now go into edit mode, use the vertex select mode, hit A, and then F to add in a new face. Go back to object mode, go into rendered mode. Now we'll go to the material properties, add a new material. Go to base color, add an image texture. Now for the image texture, I'm going to use an image that I generated. I have several images of different stadium fields that I generated. For this one, I'll be using this American football field. I'll go ahead and hit open image. I'll open up the UV editor over here by opening up a new window. Go to the UV editor. I'll go into edit mode, hit U, project from view. Over on this window, I'll rotate it by hitting R, Y, and then 90 on my keyboard, enter, and then I'll just scale it up. I know that it's not really accurate to a real football or American football field, but I'm not really going for accuracy here. I'm just going for something that'll cover the ground. Okay, now let's move on to making the building. Let's collapse this window. Let's go back to solid mode. Let's go to top view. Unhide your stadium curve. Click your stadium curve and do Shift T to duplicate it and then escape to put it back in place. Change the resolution to 12. Go to wireframe and we'll scale it up this time. SY. Hit F2, rename it to building. Hit F3, convert it back to a mesh. Go into edit mode and then A and then F to add in a new face. Go back to object mode. Let's go to the -X view. Bring it down to the ground. Then go into edit mode and then we'll hit E to extrude up. And then E again to extrude. And then S to scale in. Hit I to add in a new face. And then G and Z to bring it up a little bit. and then I again to add in one more little inset. Go into solid mode, hit X, delete faces. Go into object mode, Control A, apply scale. And then let's do Shift T to duplicate the building, escape to set it back in place, add a wireframe modifier. The wireframe is going to be 0.3. Checkmark boundaries, give it a material, metallic 0.1, and we'll also give a material to the base building here. So I'll give it a concrete material. So I'll go to the material tab here on Blender Kit. I'll search for building concrete. Let's go into render mode. I'll use this one, click and drag it onto our building, our base building here. There we go. One more thing, go into edit mode on your building here. Use the edge select tool, select the outer edge here by holding Alt, and then hit F to add in a new face. We'll hit P, separate selection, go back into object mode, select this new object, rename it to glass dome. Go to edit mode, we can hit A and then E to shoot up a little bit, and then S to scale in. There we go. Click on this number 2 here to separate the material of the glass dome, and then change it to glass BSDF. We'll go into render mode to see what that's looking like. Rename this to glass dome. And there you go. I'm not going to focus too much on the outer details of the building since we're going to be getting some inside shots. So let's see what it's looking like in the camera view. Let's do Shift A, add in a camera. Let's go to camera mode. Let's go and hit Shift and then this button on my keyboard. I don't know what it's called, but it lets me control the camera movement with my keyboard. I can scroll on my mouse wheel to make it go faster, and I'm going to go all the way to the top row here. The focal length I'm going to change to 15 to get a nice wide look of the stadium, and I think this view looks nice. Let's go to our output properties and make sure render region and crop to render region is checked, and then let's go to rendered mode to see what it's looking like through the camera. Pretty cool, but I want some light to leak through the glass dome. So let's quickly go to the shader editor with the glass dome selected. Let's do Shift A, add in a transparent BSDF. Make sure it's transparent and not translucent. Shift A, mix shader. And then we'll plug that in. There we go. And now we can adjust the sun rotation. Let's go to the render properties, change the max samples to 300, and then we can go ahead and hit render image. And there you go. You can select your camera and we can roam around the entire stadium to see what it's looking like. It looks pretty beautiful. Okay, one more thing. If you want to customize your stadium a bit and change the shape, you can do that easily by going to the stadium curve here, go into edit mode, and with the stadium curve selected, go into wireframe, and we can change this to individual origin. And then if you want the shape here to be more of a, more squarish, you could hit S and then scale, and it'll make it more squarish, like that. And there you go. You have like a more square-shaped stadium now. Just make sure you add in another array here. And again, if there's a little bit of a gap, you could click on your stadium curve and just hit S, hold Shift, and we'll scale it inside till it meets the gap. And then you would obviously have to adjust your ground again. Let's go to the building, go to the bottom face, go into edit mode, and we can just hit G and Z and just bring it down just a bit so it's not clipping that. Okay, now if for some reason you don't want 2.9 million faces in your scene and you want to cut this in half because maybe for some reason your system can't handle this, we can optimize our scene by cutting the stadium in half and then using Alt-D to duplicate our mesh. I'll show you what I mean. So let's first hide our stadium for now. Now, if you're happy with your stadium shape and the amount of sections, we're going to have to go to the modifiers and apply them. So before you do this, make sure you hit that save button and save this as an incremental version. So you have another version to go back to in case you want to change up your stadium. So go ahead and hit save incremental. And then we're going to go ahead and apply our array modifier. And then we're going to apply our curve modifier. And now we can't change the shape of our stadium anymore. It is permanently like this. However, we can go to top view, we can go into wireframe, and then we can go into edit mode. This might take some time. With the face select tool, we can select half of the stadium and then hit X delete faces. And look at that. Now we only have 1.4 million faces in our scene. Now all we have to do is just hit Alt D to duplicate the stadium, hit escape to set it back in place, and then on your keyboard hit RZ 180, enter. And there you go. Your stadium's back. We still have 1.4 million faces, or 1.5 almost, in our scene. And so we basically just cut the faces in half while still maintaining the same stadium shape with half the amount of faces. This will dramatically improve your viewport performance in case you have a slow system. You can easily change the color of your stadium seats by simply zooming in, click on your stadium, go to the material properties, open up a new window, and go to the shader editor. And if you click on your plastic red material, you can control the color. Let's go to material preview. You can control the color using this color ramp. Or what I like to do is simply disconnect all of these and just change the base color of the principal BSDF. Alright, that's it for this video. As always, you can download this entire blend file on my Patreon and get access to a ton of other cool perks. If you found this tutorial to be helpful, make sure to give this video a like and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future tutorial videos like this. Until next time, it's been your boy, Only RJ. Peace.